Hi everyone, I'm Molly. And hi, so nice to see all the names. I love to hear people's voices, so it's a little awkward to not hear your voices at this time, but I think we'll get there with Q&A. And just know that I am really honored to be here with all of you. And those are all, Katarina, thank you for such a beautiful intro. They're such like fancy words, but what I want to talk about is just really some of the, I don't know, I just see the image of me sort of crawling on the sacred dirt of life on my belly as I try to work out this amazing dance of uniting the, what was it, uniting the lower and higher selves, and this incredible uh, just, I don't know, ongoing deep inquiry of the relationship that I articulated for this talk of between surrender and inspired action within the spiritual life and my spiritual life anyway. So I was going to start, as Katarina suggested, with some personal story and highlight some of the lessons that I've learned related to this topic. And I know we all have just incredible insights with all of it. So I look forward to opening the conversation. And I'll try to also just, mention a few, yeah, takeaways, but also a few practices that have helped me along the way. Um, so I want to just start by saying that, you know, when I named this talk the and both of surrendered and inspired action, one of the things that really stood out to me is this balance that I feel that brings up between yielding and engaging is sort of how I was feeling it in my body. And that sometimes surrender, there's so many ways of approaching it, but I feel like there's a part of me that always thought of it as being passive or doing nothing. But I don't know that that really names it for me, but maybe just aligning more with the flow of spirit, the flow of life, and that this balance, this dance, isn't a static place, but is an ongoing dance. Um, is is able, when I'm aligned and able to be with this in a spacious way, that clarity arises, and that really produces an incredible ease, and deeper than that, a sense of deep spiritual home within. And so I just wanted to start with that kind of framing. So my journey, and this will be much abbreviated, but my journey has, I guess, had a lot of, like all of us, surprising twists and turns. And much of what I've learned has been what I call through burning in the ashes, like really incredible, um, surprising, deep journeys with pain, extreme pain. And so, when I started as a young person with a very strong spiritual orientation and an early experience of being connected to God or spirit. And I was raised in a tradition that I didn't feel too much of that. I had it within myself, but I didn't feel it around me. In fact, to the contrary, I saw so many things that I thought did not associate with divinity, judging people harshly, you know, uh, bigotry, uh, racism, prejudice, inequity, and all the justifications. Um, and then I also had people who were real mentors to me, people who seemed to be people of great courage, moral courage, and were doing living acts of beautiful lives without anybody knowing, nothing fancy, nothing fancy, but people of great integrity. And as I went down my path, I didn't find, I think, so many of us are very empathic and intuitive, and I was somebody who felt people's like many of us, and I think there's just some of us grew up in cultures where we don't have people affirming this for us. But, I used to actually be next to somebody and feel. I thought I was feeling their pain, and I couldn't distinguish between my pain and somebody else's pain. And part of that came from probably a sensibility I already had. I came into it, but part of it I think came from also experiencing early trauma and sexual abuse that it can break down boundaries and make us highly vigilant and sensitive in ways that are, I don't know, could be healthy and also not be healthy at all. So all those things were part of it. And, naturally, I think I had an interest in working in places where there was hurt and trauma and fragmentation. And part of that came from, I remember going with my grandmother to nursing homes, and particularly nursing homes where there were not many visitors. And she would play music, and it really changed the environment very quickly. I mean, I was just a teenager, but I just remember, like, she would play music and everybody would be up, and then she'd stop the music and everybody would go down. And I was like, up and then down. And I was like, God, this is sad that it ends and then it's over, and yet it's beautiful that, like, what is this power? And I was not like a fancy musician. I just started writing music and playing because it was a way that I could make sense of the world. But I was horrified by celebrity culture early on. I didn't like that some people were going to be great and some people weren't great. And so when I was, young, I got a chance to study in East Africa and West Africa, and I got a chance to spend time with some indigenous communities in this country. And I started seeing that there's a lot of cultures where everybody sings and dances. It's not something you have to be good at. Actually, it's a birthright. And what happens when we don't express ourselves? What's the cost of that? And I started to really dive into that, in myself. Like, what is the cost when somebody feels that they can't express themselves? And what's the cost when we don't do that together? And I became really enamored with circles, like when we come together and we listen together and we feel together and we make up stuff. And, like, I really just started small, everybody. I've been in so many nursing homes and so many church basements, and I've eaten a lot of tuna casserole and macaroni and cheese. Just really being like, okay, well, let's try it. And I'm in my mid 50s. So, I want to tell you, like, nobody was like, here's a lot of money to do that. I'm telling you, they weren't. They were like, I was just hauling stuff around. But I was aware that I was seeing something very powerful, and I was experiencing power, very strong spiritual power. And I started to see people change the way that they were feeling in their bodies and in their worlds when they felt connected to each other. And it was simple. It wasn't big money. It was like, oh, we're singing together. Oh, we ate together. We shared some stories in an empathic way. I mean, this is church, right? Like this is like, but there's a lot of places that don't have some of that too. And I didn't have that. So in some ways I became like a secular ceremonialist in some ways of like, what's sacred? Is there anything sacred here? Like, why is this feeling so yucky? Surely it is not like this. It doesn't have to be this way. So what do you do? I don't know. I just kept going. And, I burnt out. And I want to bring this back to surrender and action, because over the years, I just became more and more like, I don't know, passionate and motivated, but also tired. Like, I just didn't know my own boundaries, and I didn't know, and I say this to say that surrender in my life was very hard. And with action, with knowing what is inspired action, I found it very hard because I had an identity also of doing good. Like, I wanted to, like, do it, and I wanted to change it, and I wanted it to be better. And, like, just darn it, I was gonna do that. And I just was like, nobody's gonna stop me. ever, 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 and I just got sicker and sicker. I got so sick. And I got a crazy cancer. I had part of my neck cut out. I couldn't sing. I had part of my tongue. I got such a bad case of shingles. I didn't really know I had kidney infection. I broke my ankle in 5 places and couldn't walk. My spine collapsed. I was like yoga teacher, it's like, no, 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 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4, Sturgis. Like, you're gonna get this lesson and you better like open up. And I was like, but I can't accept things as they are. It's too painful. I can't. No, no, no. Like, it's too painful, man. I can't possibly accept that this is how we treat each other and how it's going to be. I can't accept this. And so my first like point of meditation for us all here, and I'll circle back around to this, is like, what are the conditions, like what is needed to rest in and like truly give yourself permission, to give ourselves permission to be with what is. That's it. Like that. And I bring this up because I think this is one of the hardest things to do. And when I started this path of like what I think of as like liberating creativity. That's kind of how I think about a lot of the work that I've been involved in. One of the things I definitely feel is that there's a difference between like non-action and inaction. And I don't know. And I don't know if these words help or not, but I feel like non-action is not about doing nothing. It's about cultivating awareness and being present and recognizing when action is necessary and when stillness might be appropriate. And then inaction might be something that is more like along avoidance or something like that. And I don't know if that's helpful or not, but it's a way that I started to thinking about it. And that by surrendering and like really laying at the altar, like, okay, I can be with what is, I can give this, I can be with this, allows us to understand how life is unfolding and to feel the natural flow. And that this clarity might make it possible for us to make wiser choices and take responsible actions when needed. And that both action and rest are vital aspects of life. And that surrender helps us appreciate the importance of action while acknowledging the need for rest and regeneration. And maybe it allows us to learn to live more authentically, and continuously allows us to review our feelings and motives, ensuring our actions are aligned with our deepest values and truths. So, I learned surrender through pain and being in excruciating pain and giving up everything. And, all those fancy titles you heard in the introduction. Well, when COVID hit, I disconnected. I was off. I was off. My daughter had gone away. I really, I mean, people don't believe it because they're like, they project, onto leaders, you couldn't. And I was like, no, man, I was basically living out of my car. I had like $3,000. Like, I was afraid to ask my family for any help because I was too proud. I mean, I was off and had been so ill. I had been so ill. I just didn't want to be in my body anymore. It hurt too much. It hurt too much. And in a way, it's like I'm sitting here today. I washed up on the shores of Minnesota somehow, and slowly I was just like, next best step, God, next best step. That's all I got. I don't need anything fancy, like just the next best step. And that's kind of what I've been doing. And it has taken a lot of courage. And it's funny because I grew up around spiritual communities. I came up in Boulder. I was around like very serious Tibetan Buddhism, a lot of beautiful Quaker meetings, a lot of spiritual communities, and there was always great talks about it and everything. But honestly, I've become a person that's just like, okay, let's just keep it real, people. Let's keep it real, really, just very real. Like, how do I feel in my body? This is my discernment. So, discernment, I think about the serenity prayer, when we talk about surrender and we talk about surrender and inspired action, help me accept the things. Help me accept the things I cannot change. Um, and it's, something that discernment's very difficult, but I find now that I just refer to direct experience in my body all the time. How do I feel? I was not taught to learn. We were taught, many of us were taught to jump over feelings, somatic experiences, inner knowing. But we know. And I will tell you, the years of doing the work that I've done with music and community healing, oh, we know. Oh, yes, we do know. Like, we need the time and the space, we need the conditions, but we know right here, and we know together. We may know it differently, we need to know it differently, but we know, we can heal, we heal. So, I don't know if that's about 15 minutes. It might be close. I don't want to talk too much, and I want to open up the floor. How am I doing, Katarina? Is it this?
We're great on time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let us invite any questions or uh, any thoughts into the room, reflections on what Molly has shared. Thank you so much, Molly.
Oh, thank you. I hope it's of value.
Yeah, thank you, Molly. I'll kick it off, and as other people are thinking of what they're going to ask, there was a really beautiful presentation and a beautiful presence as you spoke. Uh, I guess my question would be um,
Mm,
this tension between surrender and
mm,
action in a culture that errs on the side of action,
mm,
and the tension between body and mind in a culture that errs on the side of mind. So we're very oriented and very action oriented in our culture. And
mm-hmm,
you're saying let's actually our body is teaching us things, and we need to touch base with that. And then you're also saying that um, we the only effective way to be active is really to take time to be as you're saying, to be self-aware and be connected. So it
mm-hmm,
seems like it's almost what you're describing to me. You're saying we were never taught that, particularly in churches and religions. It does seem like the Western Christianity and so forth have been, captured by the mind and
mm-hmm.
captured by action, because
It's,
of the culture. And it seems to me like what you're suggesting today is maybe a pause in that. Like, how do we shift back and unite the two? And I think you're an empath.
mm-hmm.
And a member of our congregation, Sherry Smith, who does tests on children, said that one time that she never saw a larger group of empaths in this congregation. But she also said, "But Rich, you're not."
Okay, okay.
Everybody else is, but you're not. But that's probably why you're the pastor. But that story of like you feeling in your body, and I'm sure the health issues that you had were probably related to a lot of you picked up the toxicity and the energy around you, and it went right to your body. Um, so I'm just curious, my only question was in the way of practice, how did you build that bridge from knowing to stop action to pause? How did you build the bridge from
Mm,
knowing, okay, I'm thinking this, but what's my body say? I don't have a full body yes to this, but I just said yes to something, but my body is
mm,
saying no. How do you
right,
navigate that? And how would you
right.
encourage us to move into our bodies?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I love these questions. Thank you so much for that, Rich. I love all that. I mean, I think it's awkward. I know at the university I get asked to lead meditations, openings. Like I just was really leading a climate grief circle, and they wanted me to do a meditation to this day of climate literacy. And everybody came in the morning and they were just busy and stressed out, right? Like we are, driving to work, they're all stressed out. And, in some ways, I stand up there and it's like, okay, everybody, we're going to have a grounding breath and we're going to begin to, have a grounding moment or tuning in, 2 minute tune in or whatever you want to call it. And it's a small thing, but it starts to shift culture, right? And we are trying. And I do think in congregations like yours and other places, even just bringing in that awareness of the body and building in those moments of sensation. And most human ceremony always has been multisensorial. It's the way we know the world. It brings tremendous information to us and well-being, actually. And what I see being a health researcher in mind body medicine, spirit health researcher is, well, if you don't actually, I mean, actually, well, I'll say it the other way. If you just prioritize it a little bit, even just to begin to it's like watering part of that garden and just say, oh, we're going to water part of this garden. We're going to build this into our time. It goes a long way, I think, to people feeling, and also we all kind of relate to our world differently. But it also, Rich, I think it's also a thing of like how many of us are a bit transactional with the earth. I mean, we are earth beings of many senses, and so smell and touch, and we are of the earth. And so when we bring that in, I'll just say briefly, I think you guys would find this interesting. I did a program for 12 years writing music with people who are dying. So I was constantly writing music with people at the end of their life. And then young people would sing those songs. And almost everybody, when I asked them, where do you go for peace within yourself? There was almost nobody who didn't have nature as part of it, even though they maybe didn't even spend much time in nature. So I bring that up to say that to me that's related to the senses, it's related to the body, and our bodies are of the earth. And so I think that's a restorative bridge that has to be made as opposed to thinking of nature as something outside of ourselves and the senses. So that's part of it. And then I think also finally is just really being willing to have a roadmap that just, it's like a little awkward. We're not, most of us aren't in this environment. So it's going to be a little awkward to shift culture. Okay, it takes a little time. Take a long view. It's okay. It's going to be a little awkward. I think it's natural. So I'll pause there. I think somebody had their hand up.
Yeah, Nikki had his hand up.
Nikki?
Hi, I'm actually Nikki's sister.
Hi.
Hi, it's so nice to see all of you. I'm not normally here. And Molly, thank you so much for your sharing yourself with us. My question is someone who can relate to a lot of, I guess, how you're describing about how you relate to the world and to other people. And I wonder, I feel like I'm in a place where I'm really trying to like honor my own instincts more and my own intuition. And I was wondering how you navigate that because I think as someone who cares
Mm,
about many different people and who's also exposed to many different perspectives on the world, um,
mm,
I think it's easy to want to absorb and respect and think about everybody else's way of relating. So then how do you kind of build that stability of your own instincts, your own knowledge of the world? How do you honor that? How do you refine that? How do you like navigate when we don't know anything, right? We don't know anything. We're all just
mm.
winging it.
Oh,
I just
okay, okay. Thank you for sharing all that. Thank you. And tell me your name again.
Parisa.
Parisa, nice
Parisa.
to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Me too.
Well, Parisa, I want to say something too. Just I think it's counterintuitive for most empaths, intuitive empaths, which I'm hearing and seeing. It's counterintuitive because like I think many of us are used to just almost feeling ourselves as all the things, right? So it's counterintuitive and it can feel very weird, but it's almost like you have to let the light come in and light yourself up as a lantern, bring that light in, and
Mhm.
value your own inner foundation because it's illuminating and supporting so many around you, and it does because of
Mm.
your heart. And so you have to really prioritize and take care of that. you and build that structure around there. So a boundary is a form of love. Boundary is a form of love, you know that, but it really is. So that's what I might say. I think it's a real practice and it's something that takes time and real commitment, but important, so important.
Thank
That's
you.
nothing
Thank
you
you
don't
so much.
already know, but I'm just gonna
No,
tell you.
I appreciate it.
Oh,
It helps to hear. Thank you.
okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Also, Roxanne had a question.
Oh, okay, Roxanne.
My first question is, did you get your shruti from music makers?
Oh, I didn't. I got it in India, but thank you, Roxanne. I do love Shruti boxes, and I don't know who Music Makers is.
Well, they handcraft harps and all kinds of neat instruments, and they're
Oh,
in Stillwater, Minnesota.
oh, so close to me.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
I'll go
Eh,
find those guys.
Yeah, you should. I've
Okay,
purchased a couple of harps from them.
okay. Thank
Um,
you.
yeah. So I remember as a graduate student, I was going through, I have a PhD, and I was working in a lab with a bunch of Russian men.
Mm,
And it was a really stressful time because, I was living in this world with Russian men and they, dealing with communication issues and cultural issues and all kinds of and radioactive isotopes.
mm,
And it was really stressful and I ended up getting cancer too.
mm,
And but then I think we have like a similar journey because I took up harp and I play harp at hospices.
Oh,
So yeah, so
awesome, Roxanne.
so I what I like, what I found with the patients is I can actually take them out of hospice and I can take them to other places
Mm,
with the music.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And my patients told me that she was under the stars with David.
Mm,
And so now I feel like every time I play my harp, I'm playing my harp under the same stars that David played his harp for Solomon.
oh, oof.
So, and
Oh,
another thing,
mm,
since you are in a church of the Swedenborgian tradition,
mm,
is I recommend you read Swedenborg's treatise on tremulations because he described the body as a musical instrument.
mm-hmm.
And I wrote a paper on it and I just thought it was really fascinating because it was all about vibration and the sound box and all of that stuff. And I think it was fascinating.
Well, I'm really glad you brought that up, Roxanne. One of the things I just want to say is my position here is at the medical school is in a neuromodulation lab, and so we're looking at, music and sound and the effects on the nervous system, which takes us very quickly to frequencies and health. And it's something I didn't talk about in this presentation, but I do feel that by being in a community like this, and even thoughts are energy, they are energy, prayerful, spaces of ceremony, as we know, are energy. And they all have incredible healing power and potential, as do the things that are quite toxic and difficult to be around. And many of us are around a lot of things we're not even aware of their impact on us. And so, Rich, back to your question, developing inner awareness to me is the foundational capacity, because then we can tell, like, oh, that really is something I've been in relationship and didn't give consent to my whole life, is some kind of energy or thing that I thought I had to uh, stay in relationship to. as an energy, or somehow, not address. And so I do think awareness is critically important, not just at the level of um, discernment with our body, but even these finer energies that, Roxanne, I think you're talking about, these more spiritual, vibrational, cosmic, however you want to call it. It's an experience that many of us have. We don't talk
Yeah.
about it much, but many of us have it. Yeah.
Yeah, I quite often feel like God is pushing me off the edge of a cliff,
Mm.
but he's there at the bottom and he somehow catches me.
Oh my goodness. Wow. 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 Love
I
that. Thank you,
I
Roxanne.
see,
Thank
I
you.
want to get to, I see Ross.
Yeah.
You have your
Okay.
hand up.
Ross. Thank you, Roxanne. Hi, Ross and Louise.
And you're on mute right now.
Mhm.
Unmute.
Unmute, there you
And
go.
I wanted to give voice to Jimmy Cox put in the chat. Did you pray a lot for healing, and how are you feeling now? And that kind of related to what I was thinking as you spoke, and that is, I looked at you and I thought this person is in terrific physical health, and then you described what you've been through medically, and um, I'm just in awe of, I guess, the power that you were able to bring to bear to come through that the way you have. And that's a wonderful example to all of us.
Gosh, Ross, that is so sweet and kind of you to say. I was just saying to somebody the other day, as I said, I just didn't want to live, and I was so tired and so sad about the impact of my illnesses on the people around me. And I'd gotten into medical debt, this crazy health insurance system. Like, I've never stopped working, and I was so sad. And I really appreciate you saying that, because I was I can't feel because of the spinal collapses. I can't feel my feet that well, but I was out walking the other day, and I can walk now, and I saw somebody running with cerebral palsy. And I was like, "Oh my God, if he can do that, I can do it." And so I went out running the other day, and I was like, "I did it!" I only did like 6 blocks, but I was like Rocky. I was like, "Woo!" you know, and the Minnesotans aren't very expressive. Well, no, some are, but some aren't, I would say. And they were just like, "What is she doing?" I was like, "Nah, nah, nah, nah." But it was like 6 blocks, and I really was trotting basically. You would have been like, "What is that person doing?" But Ross, thank you. It's like big victories, big victories. I keep my bar very low. I'm very content with very little. I just want to say that. Yeah. So,
Great. Any,
yeah. Oh,
Chris
Chris has a
Heitner?
question. Yeah.
And you want to unmute,
Okay.
Chris?
Yes, I just unmuted. I'm sorry, my right ear is not functioning today, so
Oh,
I'm
oh,
trying to hear things, but uh anyway,
okay.
I wanted to just say two things, I guess. One is that many, many years ago, I, who am resistant to things like meditation,
Mm,
uh you know, and I think part of that is because I'm resistant to doing this by myself. I'm not, I
mm,
haven't quite learned how to do that. And so I was at a conference where every morning there was a come together as a group and do a little meditation stuff. And it was a very simple, very short thing led by
mm,
somebody who was very good. And it really wasn't, I have to tell you, it was probably less than 10 minutes long.
mhm,
And I would come out of that so energized. And I'm
mm,
absolutely certain that it had to do with the fact that it was all part of a group endeavor. It wasn't
mhm,
wasn't
mhm,
just me. And I recall
mm,
being at another retreat place and watching a guy who was doing like the sun salutation and stuff by
mhm,
himself, over a lake, on a bluff. And
Mhm.
I thought, well, that's wonderful. I'm glad he can do that, but I can't.
Mhm.
So so that was a learning experience. So, now
Mhm.
I tend to
Mhm.
kind of seek them out. The other, I guess the other thing that I wanted to say was that a few years ago we had a little workshop here in my city on oh gosh, Whitaker, Macrina Whitaker. It's a book called Seven Sacred Pauses,
Mm.
and like it's like during the day there are. It's almost like you set your watch, and there's a little ding, and then
Oh,
for
I
like
see.
maybe a minute or two, there's a little exercise. Now that I can do, and that's kind of kind of a nice thing.
Oh, I love that. I love that you brought that in.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
and
Mhm.
then I guess the third thing would have to do with music because I am
Mhm.
a music director, and I
Mm.
thought I do have to tell you, if any of you know sixth, seventh, and eighth graders, you know that these are kind of unwieldy kind of people, and you never quite know what you're going to get. I had a task of creating in my school system was a junior high school choir. And they gave me all three of these grades, and sixth, seventh, and eighth graders should never ever be in the same room. Sixth graders should be somewhere else. But
Mm.
uh, my little choir grew into 90 people. Well, it was the last hour of the day. And if you're the last hour of the day and you have 90 sixth, seventh, and eighth graders coming into your room, and they all have to set up folding chairs. Okay.
Mm.
And it's like the world was we just called it chaos. And in fact, I had a little sign on the door that just said Chaos Central.
Mm.
Anyway, they would set their chairs up and so on. But the funny thing was, and this is the power of music as far as I'm concerned,
Mm.
we had some warm-up exercises that actually grew from just single stuff, like everybody trying in unison, and trying is the word, but coming together finally into chords. And
Mm.
this magic thing happens
Yeah.
when even 96 seventh and eighth graders come together and they are singing warm chords. It quiets them. Just, I mean, it's like they were ready, but
Very
oh
quick.
my Lord.
Yes.
But I just thought I'd add that. Okay.
Oh,
But
no, thank you. And that's exactly, I think any of us working in music with people, it's like I so appreciate that. There's just these simple things. Like if I had time with you all, I'd just have us hum together for a while. It
right.
it
Mhm.
it just brings people right into that place of the heart and place of connection. And then, we are in the realm of deep, un infinite healing and wisdom becomes available to us. I've seen it again and again. And
Right.
yes, yes.
Have you ever seen that happen where like they will say like actually it was one of these meditation things and the guy just said everybody hum,
Yep.
and it takes about 30 seconds or maybe 45 for everyone to come together
Yep.
to one pitch. It's like I don't it was remarkable
Yep.
to
Yep.
watch that. Uh,
Very powerful and very simple. And you don't need too much. A lot of the things are very, yes, music heals the soul. And many of the most simple things, like, Chris, you're talking about something I just want to also bookmark or just pinpoint quickly, which is I think many people don't do meditation and mindfulness because you think you have to do it in a certain way. And it's true, it helps to have structure when you're just starting. But you described a story of finding something that worked for you,
right.
and it brought awareness and cultivated something in you that felt, good and positive and resourceful. And I just want to say out loud to everybody that being a meditation teacher of many years, I really am much more a proponent of awareness. What you're talking about is just those, whatever it works for you to come into awareness. Your presence being present with your body in the moment, with the world around you, just that is such a powerful act and
Right.
leads to so much resource, so much
Yeah.
spiritual resource. Um, I don't know. So it's so simple, not easy, but simple, you know. So
Well, someone gave me a, set of recordings. You know, I don't know what you call them. They're like just pieces of wordless music, but they are built on different keys for different people. And I hate 7 of them, but the 8th one is mine.
okay, well,
I mean, 7 of them make me antsy. They don't
yeah.
relax me. I don't like them. But the 8th one, I have no idea why. I don't care. I think it's wonderful. It's an old CD. I put it on and I'm gone. I am just relaxed beyond belief. But
Mm,
it is amazing how we do react
mm,
to, uh, these different things.
thank you, Chris.
Well,
Thank you.
as Jimmy has just put in, music is very healing, and I think this is a very appropriate message as we come into Advent, because Advent is a season of preparation for Christmas. And it's
Mm,
a time of slowing down and thinking about things and being aware, as Molly suggested. And I just think that this is a good discipline for all of us to try to find time to meditate, maybe using Chris's example of putting pauses in the day, or just maybe you do it before you get up in the morning or when you lay down at night, whatever it is, or if you go to the gym, whatever it is, just finding time to sit and be quiet, because that's when the messages can get through to you and the teachings can come through. And
mm,
I think that and music is a beautiful way to get into that state. So Molly, we're very grateful for your
yeah.
beautiful presence and the path that you've been on and what you can teach us. And I think we'll all be applying that during this time that can be a little chaotic with the holidays and the world the way it is. It's good to have these reminders of how we can center ourselves again. So thank
Mm.
you for that. Much
Well,
appreciated.
thank you, thank you. I really, it's been an honor for me. And I'll just end with it. What I found is that if there's one person who's centered in their heart and body in the room, it it co-regulates everybody. It affects the whole room. The light, it does. So, yes,
Sort of like
thank
the
you so
humming, huh?
much. Huh?
Like the humming you were saying,
Yeah, it just does. Yeah, it just does.
that's
So
beautiful.
thank you all so much.
Yes, as Jimmy says, we need to remind ourselves of that.
Uh-huh.
So with that, I'm going to thank Molly